3 a.m., the haunting truth about falling asleep on Firewatch. You won't believe what happens. The clock struck 3, an eerie chime that seemed to resonate through the empty woods like a warning bell. The dark sky enveloped the fire tower, casting strange shadows that danced across the wooden walls, whispering secrets that only the night could know. In that chilling, silent moment, something stirred. A deep, unsettling sensation seeped into the air, a mixture of fear and curiosity, wrapping around the heart like cold fingers. What truths lie just beyond consciousness? Something was off in the air. Emily, perched high in the fire tower, felt a creeping chill crawl up her spine as she glanced outside. The trees shifted ominously, a rustle that sent her pulse racing. It was the kind of place where myth and nature intertwined, where stories of lost souls and haunting echoes roamed freely. People said that the forest had eyes that scrutinized every move, every breath. Flickering lights that appeared out of nowhere were often debated around campfires, but up here, they felt more real than ever. Then came the sound. A sharp crack, like a branch snapping, followed by an unsettling silence that swallowed the night whole. Emily's heart thudded in her chest. Had someone else seen it too? She could feel the darkness pulsating, a living thing, ready to spill its secrets. Every corner of her mind screamed for answers as she squinted into the creeping shadows. Just then, the radio crackled violently to life, startling her to the edge of her seat. "Do you copy?" The voice was urgent, tinged with fear. "You need to wake up. You can't stay asleep, it's more dangerous than you think. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Emily's breath hitched. What was happening? The night pressed closer, almost suffocating in its intensity as every instinct screamed to be alert. The air felt heavier now, thick with questions and the scent of pine. Was it even safe to sleep? Could the darkness itself be the very enemy she needed to outrun? She glanced back at the radio. "Who is this? What do you mean?" She gasped, a lump forming in her throat. The crackling silence that returned felt worse than any answer she could have received. Shadows swirled outside, twisting into shapes that made her stomach knot. What awaited her beyond the fragile walls of her refuge? What truth lurked, ready to consume her? The questions hung in the air like a fog so thick she could almost taste them. Emily's breath came in quick, ragged gasps as she gripped the radio, knuckles white against the cold metal. The foreboding silence pressed in. Shadows flickered and twisted outside, more menacing with each passing second. Somewhere deep in the woods, something was watching, waiting. "Just state your name," she practically begged the static, her voice trembling. "What do you want me to wake up from?" Each moment dragged, and her mind raced with the implications. Maybe she wasn't safe after all, maybe the stories were correct. A flicker of movement outside caught her eye. She leaned closer to the window, squinting into the darkness. The trees hunched like monstrous figures, cloaked in night. Then she saw it, a fleeting glow, darting between the trunks. Emily's heart thundered. The forest had always been alive with mystery, but this felt different. With a deep breath, she turned to her radio again. "Can you hear me? Is anyone there?" The radio crackled again, a different voice this time, rough and urgent. "Emily. Listen carefully. Stay awake. Don't look away. Trust your instincts." The connection died with a pop, leaving her hanging. What did he mean, don't look away? She scolded herself for letting her guard down. Shadows morphed and shifted, and for a brief, terrifying moment, she was convinced they held faces that breathed. The distant rustle sounded again, closer this time, accompanied by a low growl that sent a chill racing down her spine. A flash of light swept through the trees again, this time brighter, more deliberate. Emily's instincts screamed at her to grab a flashlight, to shine it out into the darkness. No, it would only draw their attention. She clamped her hands over her mouth to stifle a gasp. What would happen if they came for her? Suddenly, the radio buzzed back to life, but the voice now was different, distorted. "You're not alone. The forest breathes. It wants you. Don't." The voice ended abruptly, replaced by static. Emily's heart raced. The urge to flee pounded like war drums against her chest. Was she losing her mind? With her breath held tight, Emily gazed outside again. The glow was gone, leaving nothing but oppressive darkness in its wake, but the feeling remained. Something lurked, just out of reach. Then, the walkie-talkie emitted a series of sharp beeps, snapping her like a rubber band. The urgency in the sound jolted her back to reality. She pressed the button, voicing her fear. "What do you want from me? I'm not going to sleep." "Look closer," the distorted voice urged. "Everything is not what it seems." Panic flooded her system. She wouldn't trust that voice. But what if the warning was real? What if the stories of the forest were true? She coughed out a whimper and forced herself to look again, peering through the glass. Nothing prepared her for what she saw next. The trees had started to bend, not from the wind, but as if they were alive, reaching for her, their branches twisting into grasping hands. Terror filled her veins. She stumbled back from the window, falling against the metal wall, trying to catch her breath. She needed answers, but the shadows moved like whispers, wrapping around her mind. "You have to wake up." The voice echoed in her thoughts, a cruel reminder of what was at stake. Emily's hands quivered, heart racing. What had she awakened? She inhaled deeply, trying to steady herself, the weight of the night pressing down. The forest was alive, feeding off her fear, and whatever it wanted was just waiting for her to close her eyes. Suddenly, a loud thud resonated below, shaking the tower and sending a fresh wave of panic crashing over her. What was that? Did it come from her or something below? Emily clutched the railing, heartbeat pounding in sync with the pulse of the night. Her next move could mean everything. But as she turned, the trees outside flickered again, forming a silhouette that sent icy tendrils coursing through her heart. She had to know if this was real. What would she do next? The moment of choice loomed like a dark shadow, begging for her to step into the unknown. The air felt electric, crackling with an ancient tension. Emily's eyes darted back to the window as the shadows twisted, forming shapes that seemed almost human. Was it her imagination, or were the trees still reaching for her, desperate? The thumping in her chest drowned out all rational thought. "Stay awake, don't look away." The voice echoed in her mind, heavy with urgency. Then there it was again, the thud. It came from below this time, a solid, menacing sound that resonated through the metal tower. She gripped the railing harder, but it was impossible to ignore the feeling of the ground shifting beneath her. She turned back to the radio, desperate for clarity. "Who are you?" she shouted into the static. "What do you want?" The silence that followed felt like a scream, stretching the seconds into an eternity. Then, the radio crackled again, the familiar distorted voice filtering through, but this time it was joined by another sound, a guttural, rumbling growl that curdled her blood. "Emily, don't fight it. The forest knows you." A wave of nausea hit her. The truth of those words clawed at her throat. There was something sacred and terrifying about these woods, something that craved her attention, her acceptance. Shadows danced outside, or were they circling her? Ice ran through her veins as she took a shaky step back, glancing at the exit. But where could she go? Frantically, she scanned the small room for anything she could use, anything to fight with. The walls were bare, save for rusty beams and a couple of old lanterns. Her throat constricted as the growl intensified, vibrating the air around her. It sounded hungry. "Look closer," the voice urged again, ringing in her head like a hypnotic chant. She hesitated, then forced herself back to the window. Whatever was happening out there, she had to face it, had to see beyond the fear that cloaked her heart. Against her better judgment, she leaned towards the glass. A flicker of that ghostly light surged through the trees again, illuminating a figure just at the edge of the clearing. Emily's breath caught. There were eyes, glowing and hungry, peering back at her. The sight twisted her gut as if some primal instinct screamed to run. But she couldn't look away. A shrouded figure stepped closer. It swayed and glided, moving between the trees like smoke, its intentions impossible to discern. Heart racing, she realized she was much too close to the truth that had loomed over the forest like a storm cloud, waiting to unleash its fury. "What do you want from me?" Emily whispered, her voice hoarse and trembling. The figure paused, almost as if it had heard her. The glow expanded, revealing more of its shape. It was monstrous yet almost beautiful. A creature of the night, echoing the very essence of the woods. "Help us," it breathed, voice soft yet terrifying. "We are trapped by your slumber, by your ignorance." Fear and confusion mingled with something deeper, a sense of responsibility stirred within her. Trapped? What did it mean? And why her? The trees swayed again, their limbs reaching as if urging her to decide. With the creature's glowing eyes locked onto hers, Emily stood frozen, heart hammering. She felt both alive and terrified in that moment, adrenaline coursing through her veins in pulsing waves. What choice did she have? What was her purpose in this awakening? Then came another thud from downstairs, this time accompanied by a horrifying crack, as if the very foundation of her reality was fracturing. "What is happening?" she gasped, looking back to the creature, hoping for guidance. "Awake or asleep, they hunger," it whispered ominously. Choose wisely. In that heartbeat of decision, time stretched, and Emily felt the weight of her world, both burden and hope, rest on the precipice of the unknown. What would she do next? Would the forest let her leave with a decision? Or had she already awakened something far worse? The secrets of the night beckoned, and Emily knew she must act before time slipped away. The floor creaked ominously beneath Emily's feet, the weight of her fear pulling heavier with each moment. She could feel the unseen presence shifting below, a dark rhythm matching the pounding of her heart. What was down there? Did the creature know? Choose wisely, the ghostly voice echoed in her mind. It hung in the air, thick with anticipation. She turned to the window, the lure of the forest outside stronger than the fear clawing at her insides. The glowing eyes remained, unblinking and watchful, waiting for her response. The creature's form was now more defined. Features twisted and ethereal, shifting with an otherworldly grace. The shadows thickened, creeping up the walls of her sanctuary. It felt as if the darkness itself was breathing, a silent beast unfurling from a long slumber. How long had she been up here? How long had the forest been whispering its secrets? And even more importantly, what had it awakened? "Help you?" Emily whispered, feeling the ridiculousness of her words echo in the hollow room. "Yes, or perish," the creature replied, an edge of desperation lurking beneath the smooth silk of its voice. "A decision must be made. The forests are alive, they punish those who turn a blind eye." Emily's mind raced, panic setting her thoughts ablaze. What was she supposed to do? There was no instruction manual for this kind of situation. She caught sight of her reflection in the window, wild eyes, disheveled hair, a girl on the brink of something vast and uncontrollable. Another crash from below made her jump. The terror shot through her chest like a lightning bolt, and she stumbled back from the window, fear mingling with resolve. The creature's eyes bore into her, igniting something she didn't fully understand. As she took stock of her options, something caught her attention, flickering in the corner of the room, a faint light emanating from the radio. It pulsed rhythmically, bathing everything in a ghostly glow. "Ask," the creature urged, taking a deep breath. She stepped closer to the radio and called out, her voice shaking but determined. "What do you want?" But the static returned, and with it, the sound of the growl grew louder, a symphony of primal hunger rising from below. Shadows writhed like smoke, and Emily clenched her fists, anchored by a desperate need for answers. "Help us awaken." The words erupted from the radio, jarring her. "Your blood ties us. The roots of your family run deep in this earth. Break the cycle, Emily." Blood ties. The revelation hit her like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just about her, it was about generations before her, and perhaps generations to come. The trees outside swayed violently, whispering warnings that grew more frantic, echoing inside her own mind. The ground trembled again, the tremor more violent this time, as if anticipating her choice. It was then she noticed the lantern, rusted but still glowing. Could it be a conduit? Her heart raced as she moved towards it, every instinct urging her to act quickly. "Don't!" the creature cried, but the urgency of her own thoughts drowned its voice. She reached for the lantern, feeling its warmth against her palm. In that moment, she understood. This was not simply a choice between stay or go. This was a battle against something that wanted to consume her and keep her dreams anchored under a heavy gloom. Emily lifted the lantern, a beacon against the encroaching darkness, and turned back to the window. "I choose. I want to let you all down." With fire in her veins, she swung the lantern wide, casting away shadows as the eagerness of the forest pulsed around her. The growl transformed into a thunderous roar, one that shook the very bones of the tower. What had she unleashed? A wave of energy surged through her, igniting her determination. But in the depths of the forest, something stirred a response to her choice, something ancient and powerful. The air crackled, and she braced for the onslaught of the unknown. Just as she felt enveloped by the dark, the radio screamed one last command. "Run, Emily. Before it's too late." With her heart in her throat, she dashed for the stairs, unsure of where the path would lead. The weight of her decision pressed down on her, but the true challenge lay ahead. What awaited her in the shadows beyond? A revelation that would change everything, or a fate worse than she could imagine? Emily raced down the staircase, the wooden steps groaning under her desperate flight. With each hurried step, the world above felt more distant, as if she were sprinting away from herself. Blood roared in her ears, drowning out the howl of the wind and the distant echoes of the creature's growl vibrating through the ground. "Stay focused," she thought, pushing aside the terror clawing at her throat. The lantern pulsed softly in her grip, its light casting long, stretching shadows that lurked just out of reach. The moment she burst through the door at the bottom of the stairs, the air changed. The shadows seemed to congeal, thickening into tangible shapes. The basement was a labyrinth of old furniture and cobwebs, a graveyard of forgotten possessions left to decay. She could still hear the static of the radio echoing in her mind. Break the cycle. What did that even mean? Emily's breath quickened as she navigated through the snaking paths of the clutter. She could feel the darkness pressing against her, a living entity hungry to consume her. Then, a flash of movement caught her eye, a silhouette darting just beyond the reach of her lantern's light. Her heart raced, fear shooting through her as she spun toward the source. It was gone before she could focus, but she felt it, something watching, something waiting. "Emily," the voice echoed again, but this time it was layered, each whisper seeping into her skin like ice. She paused, the weight of the air heavy around her. A shiver coursed down her spine as she realized the sound was coming from the corner of the room, the once ignored rusted mirror. It was cracked, the glass splintering like fractured memories. Approaching cautiously, she peered into the reflection. Instead of seeing her own terrified face, the glass revealed a twisted version of the forest, a battleground ripe with shades and shadows, carved by the agonizing cries of those who had come before. "Break the cycle." The words ripped through the silence again, more desperate, more frantic, resonating through the essence of her very being. She shook her head, pressing her palms against the glass. What did it want from her? Just then, the mirror seemed to ripple, and a blurred image of a woman emerged. A fleeting expression flashed across the woman's face. Was that sorrow or despair? The face was familiar, yet alien. The ground shuddered and the mirror distorted, the woman's features morphing into something dark, something haunting. Emily, it's your choice. Embrace your destiny. With a deep breath, Emily stepped back, her mind racing. She glanced at the lantern, then at the layers of dust caked on the floor. What am I supposed to do? Just what do I have to embrace? The roar beneath her thickened, a rising crescendo of survival and despair that beckoned her toward the heart of it all. If the forest calls for blood, she whispered to herself, fighting back the swell of fear that threatened to overcome her. In that moment, clarity struck her like a bolt of lightning. It wasn't just about life or death, it was about understanding her lineage, the bond that had connected all the women in her family to this very ground. It was time to confront the truth, to face the shadows etched in her blood. Emily stood firm, raising the lantern high. The flicker of its flame danced defiantly against the gathering darkness. I refuse to be just another victim, she shouted, echoing through the depths of the basement. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, shrieking as if in pain. The mirror convulsed, and for a split second, she felt an intense current of energy surge in her direction, loud, alive. But before she could understand the sensation, the growl escalated to a deafening roar, shaking the walls. Everything began to shift, the ground cracking, the air thick with tension and anticipation. She stumbled back, caught off guard as the shadowy figure materialized behind her, eyes burning like embers in the darkness. It grinned a twisted, malicious grin that seeped into her bones. A heartbeat felt like a lifetime. What would happen if she didn't confront it? Would it consume her like it had the others? Fight! The echo of the radio compelled her. With no choice left, Emily's knuckles tightened around the lantern as she prepared to confront whatever darkness lay ahead. As the shadows closed in, she steeled herself and leaped into the unknown, determined to unveil the truth. Would she emerge victorious, or would she succumb to the legacy of terror that haunted her family for generations? Emily plunged into the uncertainty, heart racing as the shadows lunged at her. The air was electric with dread, every molecule saturated with malevolence. She held the lantern like a sword, its light flickering desperately in the overwhelming darkness. Stay strong, she told herself, forcing her legs to move forward. The shadows writhed, forming grotesque shapes that seemed to whisper her name, teasing and taunting. The growls, their guttural tones resonated within her chest, pounding like drums of war. Emily, the voice was almost a caress, inviting yet laced with venom. She felt a chilling breath against her neck. The shadows were behind her. Panic surged. No time to doubt. Remember who you are. Quickened breaths fueled her resolve as a primal instinct kicked in. She darted toward the source of the roars, the center of it all, the mirror, now pulsating with wild energy. It felt like the heartbeat of the basement, a rhythmic pounding that echoed through her bones. If this was the gateway, she had to do something before the creature took control. Rushing back, she focused on the mirror, feeling the heat of the lantern in her hands. I am not afraid, she shouted, the words exploding from her lips. A defiant spark blazed within her soul. With every ounce of strength, she hurled the lantern at the mirror. The glass shattered with a deafening crash, shards flying like shards of her past, each piece glinting ominously in the dim light. A wail erupted from the depths beyond, a sound so tortured it clawed at her heart. The shadows lurched backwards, recoiling as if they had been struck, but from the destruction came a swirling mist, dark and twisted. In its depths, she saw visions of countless women lost to this curse. Their faces flickered moments of pain and anguish, but also defiance. Break the cycle, they wailed in unison, their voices rising and intertwining in a ghostly chorus. Fury mixed with sorrow surged through Emily. You will not take me, she screamed, as a surge of courage ignited her from within. The echoing screams seemed to lift her. She was a part of them, a part of their strength. Embrace your destiny, the figures wailed. The mist coiled around her, but instead of pulling her down, it cradled her, wrapping her in the warmth of their collective sorrow, offering a path forward. She lifted her arms, accepting the energy flowing from the women. Images flooded her mind, each ancestor who had fought against the encroaching dread, each one who had met their demise in this dark legacy. The shadows hesitated, coiling and recoiling, uncertain now. Emily drew the power from the generations before her, channeling their strength. No more will we accept this fate. With a shout, she pushed the energy outward, sending it spiraling into the burgeoning darkness. Light erupted from her, a radiant force that blazed against the shadows. The darkness shrieked, contorting as it fought against the expulsion. Emily felt the energy radiate out into the basement, illuminating every forgotten corner, every piece of furniture that had witnessed the oppression of her family. The haunting whispers grew shrill. This cannot be. With a final, defiant roar, Emily released everything: her fear, her pain, her lineage. In the wake of the explosion of light, the shadows vanished. Silence blanketed the basement, a heavy, pregnant stillness that felt almost sacred. Yet deep within, Emily sensed a remnant of darkness still lingering. The cycle was intact, but now she had a choice. She hadn't just fought for herself, but for the spirits that dwelled there. What do I do now? She muttered, breathless and bewildered. She scanned the remnants of the shattered mirror, its pieces still clinging to remnants of the darkness. Emily knew her battle was only beginning. Suddenly, as fragments of the honor-bound past shimmered in the soft glow of her radiant light, a low growl echoed from the depths once more. Something was still there, lurking just beyond her reach, waiting for its moment. Her heart thundered as she faced the unknown. The question hung in the air, heavy and unrelenting. What had she truly unleashed? And just as everything began to fade to black, an image flickered in the remaining shards of the mirror, a face, a woman, her eyes filled with promise and warning. Emily would have to confront the true essence of her bloodline before it claimed her soul. The darkness was thick, curling around Emily like a sentient shroud. She felt the remnants of the shattered mirror pulse beside her, each fragmented piece reflecting not just light, but memories, snapshots of lives once lived and stolen. And that growl, it rumbled again, low and menacing, sending a shiver down her spine. Show yourself. She shouted, voice cracking with a mix of defiance and fear. The walls seemed to nod in response, their rough surfaces vibrating with the sound. The air felt charged, alive with expectation, as if the very foundation of the house was holding its breath. The shadows stretched further into the corners of the basement, swirling like a storm. They converged, coalescing into a figure that wasn't just darkness but substance. Silhouetted against the broken remains of the mirror was a woman, her form both beautiful and haunting, cloaked in the very fabric of nightmares. Emily, the voice, gentle yet commanding, wrapped around her as if trying to suffocate any remaining confidence. This was the essence of her bloodline, a figure from the depths of her family's cursed history. You've broken the barrier, but it will come at a cost. What cost? Emily demanded, stepping forward, clutching the lantern tightly, the light flickering defiantly against the encroaching dark. She was not going to let fear consume her now. This was her moment. You cannot simply erase the past, the woman said, her face becoming clearer. Emily recognized those features, her own. Everything has a price. They sacrificed so much for you to be here. Emily's heart raced. They? Who? What do you want from me? The specter shifted, her face a canvas of sorrow and anger. They want to be free from the darkness that binds them. You must decide. Keep the darkness at bay or embrace it to unlock your true power. Power? The word felt thick on her tongue, tinged with temptation and dread. She had never wanted power, she had only wanted to break the cycle. It comes with a price. It is not for the weak, the woman warned, stepping closer, her features sharpening into focus. Will you forsake your humanity to gain strength? A flicker of doubt ignited within Emily, but the memories of the tortured faces she had seen in the mist pushed her forward. What do I have to do? You must take the power, but you will also face the full weight of what it means to be part of this lineage, the figure whispered, the shadows swirling with her words. You may become the very thing you sought to destroy. Emily swallowed hard, her throat tight. Tell me how. Embrace the shadows, become one with them. Feel your ancestors' pain merge with your own. Only then can you fully comprehend the cycle. The woman extended her hand, dark tendrils swirling around her fingertips, grasping for Emily like ghostly vines. The urge to recoil was overpowering, yet a deeper longing surged within. Would she really have to sacrifice her humanity to break free? Was embracing the darkness her only path to true freedom? The growl erupted again, fiercer this time. Do it. You have to decide before it consumes you. Emily took a shaky breath, memories clashing within her mind, the bravery of generations battling against despair. Then the warmth of the lantern in her grasp seemed to tell her otherwise. She needed to fight. What happens if I refuse? She asked. A new darkness will arise, one that you may not be able to control, just as it has in the past, and it will claim you along with everything you love, the woman warned. The air crackled with tension. Emily could feel the weight of destiny pressing down, the options swirling around her, a tempest threatening to tear her apart. Will you fight, or will you succumb? The voice echoed, reverberating through the basement. As the shadows inched closer, threatening to engulf her, Emily felt the weight of her family's legacy bearing down. She had to make a choice. Would she seize the darkness to wield the power of her ancestors, or fight against it to shatter the cycle once and for all? And just then, a chilling wind swept through, almost whispering her name, echoing through the vast abyss that lay ahead. What have I done? She realized, finally understanding the gravity of her actions. The basement shuddered, and Emily stood on the precipice of choice, poised between light and the abyss. What would she choose? The choice remained in her trembling hands, and time was running out. Emily's heart thundered in her chest as the shadows crept closer, molding themselves into grotesque forms. Each flicker of her lantern sent tendrils of light darting into the corners of the basement, but the darkness pushed back, swirling in hungry anticipation, waiting for her response. Make your choice, Emily, the figure demanded, arching an eyebrow, her own shadowy hands quaking as if holding back the floodgates of despair. The flickering ponytail of shadow behind the spectral woman seemed almost alive. It shifted restlessly, eager to claim its prize. Panic surged in her throat, choking her. The choice felt monumental: stay trapped in a cycle of pain or risk everything to gain the power promised. She could feel the weight of her ancestors pressing down like lead. Do you love them? The woman asked suddenly, her voice slicing through Emily's turmoil. Do you truly want to protect them? Even if it means becoming what you fear? Of course I love them. Emily snapped, the words pouring out in a fervid rush. I just want to save them. I don't want to hurt anyone. The shadows writhed, riled up by her defiance, the growl looming once again in the distance. It reverberated like a death knell, a solemn reminder of everything at stake. Then embrace the shadows, the woman hissed, echoing Emily's own fears. Only through suffering can you save those you love. Your strength derives from their pain. Don't look away from your destiny. And if I refuse, Emily countered, the steely edge of determination knotting in her stomach. How do I keep them safe then? The spectre's laughter was cold, sharp. The darkness is already here, Emily. It will consume them. You cannot outrun your bloodline. It will find you, and it will leave ashes where your loved ones once stood. A visceral image flashed in Emily's mind, her family surrounded by a void, crying out, faces twisted in horror as the shadows raced toward them. Panic pressed down harder than before, threatening to crush her will. What if she hesitated, words trembling as she waded deeper into the abyss of her thoughts? What if I could harness it? Control it? That is the choice, the woman interjected softly. But with control comes consequences. You could unleash horrors far worse than you imagine. You may awaken things that should sleep forever. The growl returned, shaking the very walls of the basement as Emily backed away, clutching the lantern like a lifeline. What if I become a monster? She breathed. The thought clawed at her, tearing apart the very fabric of her reality. Monsters have power, Emily, and power can protect, the woman insisted, her voice softer now, an almost motherly tone. What will you give up to save the ones you cherish? Emily's breathing quickened as the shadows swirled around her, a tempest of desperation and unspoken dread. She saw faces in the dark, her family, friends haunted by a fate she might bring upon them. Each blurred reflection pressed in on her consciousness, demanding acknowledgement. Could she really face the choice of power at such a cost? Suddenly, a howl erupted from the depths of the shadows, deafening and proud, as though answering her unasked questions. It shook her to the core, calloused her thoughts against instinct, daring her to confront the unknown. "Your humanity or your strength, Emily," the figure urged, eyes glimmering like coals in the dark. "The time is now. Will you stand for the light or will you harness the darkness?" Emily trembled, her heart warring with her mind. The shadows clawed at her sanity as she glimpsed what lay on the other side of her choice, a terrain laden with uncertainty, conflict, and unimaginable power. "Either way, the darkness is coming and it demands a champion," the spectre taunted. As the growl echoed, an ominous chill coursed through her veins, shaking her to her core. Could she save those she loved from the very power she feared? The decision twisted in her gut, making her nauseous. Emily steadied her breath, light flickering, fighting against the encroaching void. Whatever she chose, she knew there was no turning back, but could she truly sacrifice her soul to save the ones she treasured? And with dread weighting her heart, she faced the shadows, ready to discover the waves of fate crashing toward her. What awaited her on the other side was a revelation of ghastly proportions. Would that embrace lead her to salvation or consume her whole? The shadows closed in, a living tapestry of fear, and Emily felt its grasp tighten around her. Her heart raced, drumming in her ears, drowning out the haunting growl that lurked beyond. A flicker from her lantern cast a trembling glow on the woman's ghostly face, revealing a cruel smile that twisted her features. "Choose, dear Emily," the woman urged, her voice heavier now, laced with a hunger that felt almost tangible. "The darkness is waiting and time is slipping through your fingers like sand." Emily stood at the crossroads of her fate, trembling. The spectre beckoned with an outstretched hand, palm open in invitation. "Embrace the shadows. Set them free, and you will wield unimaginable strength. You can protect them all." But which them? Was the woman referring to the family she adored or the very shadows that threatened to erase them? Guilt clawed at Emily's insides. To her right, the faint silhouette of her family hovered in her mind, desperate, pleading for help. To her left, the promise of power loomed like dark lightning, crackling with potential. "Your energy, they feel it," the woman hissed keenly, sensing Emily's hesitation. "Their pain resonates with yours in the deepest way. This is your birthright, your ancestors lived it, breathed it, and now it's your time." "Stop!" Emily shouted, summoning a strength she didn't know she possessed. "I don't want any of this if it means becoming a monster. I just want to save them." A low chuckle reverberated through the basement, echoing against the damp bricks. "But what if the monster can save them? What if the cost of their safety is your very soul?" The shadows rippled, hungry, whispering promises of might and vengeance. With every flicker of the lamp, they beckoned, weaving a web around her thoughts. Could power be made without sacrifice? Could she protect her family without abandoning her humanity? Suddenly, the ground shook, angry and insistent. The walls seemed to pulse as if the very building was reacting to her indecision. The growl grew louder, a harbinger of doom drawing ever closer. "Choose. Or watch them burn." The woman shrieked, her voice morphing into a nasally wail that penetrated Emily's mind. She stumbled backward, feeling the raw terror swell to a height that made her vision blur. "No!" she cried. "I refuse to believe this is the only way." And then, from the depths of her heart, a flicker ignited. It radiated warmth, pushing back against the choking tendrils of darkness. She could feel her family, their love intertwined with hers, haunting her thoughts, urging her forward. In that pivotal moment, Emily faced the spectre, eyes blazing. "If I'm to be a monster, I will be one for them." As the words escaped her lips, an explosion of energy erupted. The shadows recoiled, a wailing backlash echoing in the cryptic room. Hues of blue and violet danced around her, illuminating her figure with an ethereal glow. Embrace it, then. The woman screeched, a mix of rage and glee, her shadowy tendrils swirling violently. Embrace your destiny. For the first time, fear was replaced with purpose, forging a new resolve in Emily's heart. Power surged through her veins, but with it came the acute awareness of her fading humanity. The choice was hers, and she was ready to test the boundaries of that choice. As her vision cleared, Emily felt the balance shifting around her, the tension in the air thick and electric. But before she could grasp what lay within her newfound strength, she heard a piercing scream echoing from the house above. Emily! The cry was her mother's. Filled with terror, heart racing, Emily instinctively turned, the shadows swirling behind her as she raced toward the stairs. The very darkness she had contemplated embracing clung to her heels, propelling her forward. It wanted in. Could she protect them, or had her choice truly unleashed more than she bargained for? A new darkness loomed ahead, one that sought to claim everything she held dear. What waited upstairs was just the beginning and perhaps the true test of her fate. Emily surged up the stairs, 2 at a time, each step a war cry against the shadows threatening to engulf her. She felt their push and insistence urging her to give in, to let the darkness wrap around her. But the gut-wrenching scream from her mother was like a lifeline, pulling her back, reminding her of who she was fighting for. She burst through the door at the top, heart hammering as she stepped into the spreading night, where the shadows twisted menacingly. The cool air hit her like a slap, but it only fueled her resolve. "Mom!" she called, voice straining against the dark. The trees loomed overhead like ancient sentinels, their branches reaching out as if they were alive, grasping, hungry. In the distance, just beyond the clearing, she saw a flicker of movement. Panic surged through her. Instinct kicked in. She sprinted forward into the dark forest, unwilling to leave her family behind. Each step was a reminder of the unseen creature waiting just below the surface. That growl echoed in the depths of her mind, a promise of chaos. "Stay strong," she whispered to herself. "Just focus on her." Then she saw it, her mother, standing frozen against the backdrop of darkness, fear etched on her face. Emily could barely breathe as she rushed toward her, but they were separated by a thick curtain of shadows that writhed as if it was sentient. "Emily!" Her mother's voice broke through, raw and urgent. "Get back. It's dangerous." "No. I can help," Emily shouted, gripping the lantern tightly. She felt the power coursing through her. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. She wouldn't let fear decide her fate. Instead, she tapped into the strength of her ancestors, channeling the love and warmth she felt in that moment into the lantern. "Emily, listen to me. You mustn't." Her mother's warning was cut off by the piercing roar of the creature emerging from the darkness. It burst into the clearing, a massive figure, each shape quivering with latent rage. Emily's heart dropped. The darkness from her nightmares was real, the very essence of what she had fought against and now felt tempted to embrace. But she wouldn't hide. Instead, she raised her lantern, the light surging around her like a protective shield. The creature paused, its glowing eyes locking onto her. A growl rumbled in its chest, reverberating through the night. "You dare oppose?" it rasped, voice like gravel. "I dare." Emily shot back, voice steady despite the fear clawing at her insides. "I won't let you take anyone." Her mother's frantic eyes filled with pride, pushing Emily to channel the courage flowing through her blood. With a deep breath, she focused on the light, drawing upon everything: the love, the fear, the legacy wrapped up in her ancestors' pain. "Run!" she called back to her mother, feeling the weight of the moment press heavy against her shoulders. As the creature lunged at them, Emily flung the lantern toward it, the light bursting forth in a brilliant wave. It exploded on contact, shattering into 1,000 flickering sparks that ignited the dark like stars being born. The creature howled, a sound that sparked like lightning shooting through the air. Shadows peeled back, revealing the twisted forms of those who had come before to fuel its hunger. They were lost souls, trapped in the very fabric of the woods. Emily could feel their anguish vibrating through her. No more. She shouted, feeling their pain twist into her own. You can all be free. Drawing courage from their spirits, Emily focused the light, pushing back against the shadowy mass. Each pulse of light scattered the darkness, illuminating the night with fierce determination. Emily felt the energy of her ancestors swirling around her, connecting her to the essence of their stories, the pain, the victories, the promise of freedom. Break the cycle. They echoed through her, a chorus of warriors rising to reclaim their story. The creature screamed, the sound emerging as a mix of fury and fear. With a final burst of determination, Emily stepped into the fray, light blazing, illuminating the path to her mother. It ends here. The shadows lanced out one last time, but she pushed her will against them, accepting the strength she inherited. I am not just a victim. I will protect my family. The brilliance of the light grew until it engulfed everything in its path. Then came the grotesque roar, echoing and fading, overrun by the power of the brightness that surged from Emily's very being. And just like that, the darkness began to dissolve. The creature's form wavered, then frayed into smoke, whisking away into the night as though it had never existed. The forest flickered, coming back to life. Colors returned and the heavy shadows lifted, leaving swaths of light brightening the landscape. Emily turned, breathless, and found her mother rushing to wrap her in a fierce embrace. Emily! You did it! Her mother cried, tears shimmering in her eyes. Emily could only nod, still trembling with the overwhelming realization of what she had faced and what they had overcome together. But even as relief washed over her, a shadow lingered at the periphery, whispering promises of strength and danger. She had broken the cycle, but she felt the weight of her lineage shift within her. With both fear and determination in her heart, Emily embraced her mother tightly, knowing that they were safe for now. But she also sensed the power lingering in her veins, the responsibility to guard against the shadows that would always haunt, and a commitment to never let fear dictate her fate again. They would rebuild, as a family, together, armed with light against whatever darkness dared to approach. As they stepped out of the forest into the dawn, Emily knew she had only just begun her journey, but now, she would face it fully aware of who she was, and who she could become. With that small breath of air echoing new beginnings, they walked toward the rising sun, ever watchful of the shadows behind them. If you loved this conclusion, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the adventure alive. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Emily's incredible journey. Your thoughts mean everything to us, so don't hold back. Finally, share this video right now with at least 5 friends who need to feel the thrill of this tale. Don't wait even one more second. Support the channel and keep the stories flowing.